Hello again! Alright, this video I'm going to be talking about your Funopticon film analysis assignment. I still have puppies with me. I might rearrange. Jerome's on the floor taking a snooze, so again you might hear him snoring, which he's currently doing. So if you hear some weirdo noises in the background, that's him. Alright, let's go through this assignment. And again, if you have any questions about this assignment, shoot me an email. You can post it on the discussions or a questions for Kim discussion board, whatever you'd like to do. I have a split screen, so if you see me looking towards one way, that's what I'm doing. If you're wondering, why isn't she staring straight ahead? That's why. All right, so our Funopticon film analysis is due Sunday, June 3rd, so 2 weeks from yesterday. So you have a little bit of time, not too much, just because the spring semester is fairly quick. I'm trying to stop Jerome from snoring. But just giving you a heads up, we do have a little bit of extra time, not the quick turnaround by the surveillance log and reflection like we did this week. The length of this assignment is 1,250 to 1,500 words, so we've got the ante a little bit on the word count here. It is 14% of your final grade, so you do want to make sure that you are paying attention to it and giving it a good effort in this grade. You do need 3 sources for this film, and I should just pause here for a second and say I'm just reading the film. I'm reading the assignment description, which can be found under the Assignments tab. It can be found in the Modules, or you can go under the Files tab and find it too. So that's where you can find this information again. All right, so you need 3 sources. Your chosen film, which I'll explain in a minute. You need Under Surveillance, which is our textbook, and then one other source. That's really up to you. I prefer that it's, a somewhat academic source, but for your other source, please don't use Wikipedia. You can scroll down to the bottom and use any of the sources that the Wikipedia page uses, but don't use the Wikipedia page itself. Don't use film summaries, don't use blogs, or don't use any other sort of questionable websites. You're college students, and so the research should be, up to the par of an actual college student. As I said, it's fine to use Wikipedia, but don't end there. And you must cite the actual film. Don't use the IMDb page. If you need additional sources, you must cite them too, but you're not required to use any more beyond the 3 that are required. Because it's an English class, we do use MLA citation format. And then the document design is basically when you open up Word or Google Docs or Pages, just a 12-point font, Times New Roman, Calibri, something like that. And then the acceptable file types are listed on the assignment page. In the corresponding chapter of our textbook, oh, my hair is like doing something weird. It's always weird recording video. You're just like staring at a mirror. It's like, ooh. Corresponding chapter of Under Surveillance is chapter 2, Welcome to the Funopticon. Okay, you are going to choose one film to actually review. In in chapter 2, Welcome to the Funopticon, Lewis actually does a film review or film analysis of the games. You're going to be doing something very similar. So when you do read that chapter, you'll encounter this section where he does actually go through the details of the film and really break down how the Funopticon is at play. You're going to emulate that with a different film. So let's talk about the films that are up for review. You have Gamer, The Hunger Games, Nerve, The Truman Show, or EdTV. Some more recent, some a little bit older. You can propose a different film, but it must be approved by me well before the due date. The film must have explicit use of the concept of the Funopticon. It can't just be a scene. So I do want to make that very clear. And all the films that are listed here are very much heavily rooted in the idea of the Funopticon. But if you have a different idea, and again, this is not, an exhaustive list, you're more than welcome to send me an email so I can take a look at it and, prove it if it's okay. All right, what are the assignment details? For this assignment, you're to watch one of the eligible films that I just talked about and apply Lewis's theory of the Funopticon to the film using specific details from the film itself. In our book, Lewis provides an example of a film analysis beginning on page 70. That's what I just mentioned, where he goes through the film, The Game, and really applies the Funopticon to that film itself. In a similar fashion, you should watch your chosen film carefully. This might mean you have to view it more than once. Because the film isn't due until 2 weeks from yesterday, you might use this week to actually view your film, take notes, that sort of thing. And then in your paper, your argument should prove to readers how the film selection makes use of the Funopticon. by providing 4 specific examples from the film. And I want to emphasize that a little bit. I want you to find 4 specific moments in which the Funopticon is at play. And so when you come up with these 4 moments, you're going to spend a little bit of time describing them. You're going to explain what the Funopticon is, how it's being used in those scenes, that sort of thing. And here I have a little list of what film analyses often contain. And so you might want to structure your paper like this. An introduction, right? That's pretty standard for most essays. But in this type of film analysis, the introduction should function in this way. It identifies the film you're analyzing and its background. It should also state your interpretive question and the text, about the text and a main point or thesis statement that answers a question. So you might say, I was wondering how the Funopticon came into play in the film Gamer. I'm going to use the rest of this essay to explain that or answer that question. You don't actually have to pose a question, but you can kind of phrase it in that way. You might say, I wonder what kind of, I'm curious about the type of enjoyment people get from watching other people do whatever, like Hunger Games, It seems very strange that people would watch kids trying to kill each other. I'm going to use the idea of the Funopticon to analyze this. Why would people be interested in it? So you might, again, that's another idea of phrasing that type of question that I'm mentioning there. Then you're going to have targeted summaries or description of the text that focus only on the events or features that play a key role in your interpretation. This is not the time to explain everything that happens in the film. What this means is you're going to pull out those 4 examples that you're required to do and use a little bit of summary to describe those 4 examples. Why is this little example a good idea or good relation to the Funopticon? Why is this second example a good use of the Funopticon, and so on. So you're really only talking about summary in the examples that you're using for your paper. Then you're going to use quoted material taken directly from the text that moves your interpretation forward and illustrates your points. The targeted summaries and the quoted material really do kind of go hand in hand. You can pull quoted material in to actually say, okay, here's an example of the Funopticon. Here's a character saying something specific that really helps us understand what the Funopticon is or how it's at play in this moment or in this scene or whatever. Then you're going to have support for your interpretation that shows how your interpretation makes sense and offers fresh insights into the interpretive question. Here could be a good place for your outside research. You might find a source that they might not use the term Funopticon, but they might do some sort of film analysis that talks about some of the scenes that you do. Or they might do a film analysis that mentions, again, going back to that Hunger Games example, like why people would watch this. What is it about, like, what is this idea of kids kind of, it's hard to say it that way, but kids, fighting each other to the death. Like, what is it is that a metaphor for something else? For example, I don't know. I'm sure that there are many academic articles kind of talking about that you can find interpretations along those lines. That's what you're trying to do with your outside source. And then a conclusion that discusses the significance, oops, I have a typo there, it says significance the interpretation. It should say of the interpretation. So you're kind of just wrapping everything up in your conclusion. In your film analysis, you must incorporate, like I said, an additional source. This source should help readers understand your perspective. Again, that could be the support for your interpretation part. It could enhance your argument, or it could even provide a counter argument. If you find something that somebody says that is very different from what you're trying to argue, that's a great source. Counter arguments are always useful because it's good to show different perspectives in your writing. And so for the grading, to have success on this paper, you must have a clear argument about how the Funopticon is used in your film. You must include 4 specific examples. You must focus on one film only. If you do not use the appropriate number of sources, use inappropriate sources, undershoot the word count, or use a film that's not approved by me, you won't have success on this paper. Please see the English 212 rubric for further grading details. That is this assignment. That's just an overview, but I do encourage you that as you're starting to work on this paper, I want you to really shoot me a question, send me emails about this if you have, questions about scenes, you're like, I'm kind of thinking this is how the Funopticon works, send me an email if you have like a little bit written out and you want me to read it. I'm happy to provide you feedback. But I'm really here to help you through this assignment. So really take your time and really try to, make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to actually work through this and work through the details, and really ask for help if you need it. I'm here for you to help you out. This might be a little bit, all this stuff being thrown at you right now might be a little bit challenging if you haven't read chapter 2 yet. And so that's going to be the best place to start, before I think you actually pick a film. So I want you to read chapter 2 about the Funopticon, and then look at the list of films, or think of a film that, might be useful for this film analysis. Send me an email with the name of that film, and we'll go from there. But that's all I have for this assignment. And again, shoot me questions via email, on the discussion boards, all that sort of stuff. I'm really happy to help you out through this. But that's it for this video. I'll be back in a few minutes with another video about another assignment for later in the semester. All right, bye. Oops, where's my mouse? There it is. Bye again.